Alright, hopefully without any coughing this time. UFC 139 predictions, and additionally at the end of the video, if I have time, I'm going to talk about something. If I don't have time, I'm going to have to talk about it on the Tough Review tomorrow night or Thursday, depending on when I do it. So anyways, here we go. Shamar Valley versus Danny Castillo. Castillo all day, every day. Better striking, better wrestling, better grappling. Unanimous decision. Wouldn't be surprised if he got a sub, but Bailey's not an easy guy to finish for a guy like Castillo. In fact, I don't think he's ever. Oh, nope, he was finished by Roger Bowling, but he was not finished by Evan Dunham, who I think is kind of a better version of Castillo. As a result, I'm taking Danny Castillo by unanimous decision. Continuing on, Matt Brown, Seth Shinsky in a fight that is basically loser GTFO, rooting heavily for Matt Brown, and I would normally go with him, but he has a tendency to get submitted. Seth Bakuchinsky has a reasonable ability to catch people and things. As a result, I'm going with Seth Bakuchinsky via second round submission, but I'm really, fingers crossed, hoping I'm wrong, and that Matt Brown pulls this off by like a TKO or a decision. Possibly a sub. Bakuchinsky's also actually pretty subbable. So either way, I mean, this should be a pretty good fight, even if they're not really UFC level. Miguel Torres, Nick Pace. It's possible that Miguel Torres might get, completely robbed, like he did against Demetrius Johnson, where they give, points to taking a guy down and not really doing anything with it. Well, the guy on bottom attacks and on the feet is much better, and so on. Hoping not. Taking Miguel Torres, and I'm going to go bold and say third round submission via probably a triangle choke. There is my theory on the matter. Although Nick Pace has never been tapped before, so go, it's a bit ballsy. Gleison Tibau versus Rafael Dos Anjos. As much as it pains me to go with Gleison Tibau, Dos Anjos is not the hardest guy in the world to take down, and while he is a better stand-up guy than Tibau, Tibau's pretty able to take a couple shots, to give a couple of shots, and Dos Anjos' game from his back, well, it's good. I don't think it's good enough to catch Tibau. That being said, there's a huge opening that every one of Gleison Tibau's opponents has, and that's called the third round, when Tibau just generally gets really tired and you can really take advantage of that. Dos Anjos might be the type of guy to do that, but I am picking Tibau by unanimous decision. But if Dos Anjos can do something, it'll probably be in that late second round or third round time frame. Chris Weidman, Tom Lawler, two very interesting middleweights, two guys who bring a lot to the table, two guys who are pretty well rounded. Problem is that in the end they are two wrestlers, and Weidman is the much better wrestler, I think. The also problem is that Lawler tends to gas out a little bit, and generally this leads me to believe that Weidman should be able to win this fight, probably by unanimous decision, because of, as I stated, just the better wrestling credentials. I think his stand-up actually looks a little bit better. His grappling, I think, is good enough, although Lawler's caught people. But I believe that Weidman has all the tools to win this fight. And then a bit of a weird one on the Spike card. We got Alex Soto taking this fight on very short notice. He's an undefeated prospect. Hasn't beaten anyone that makes you go, this guy's really got something. This guy, might really have something. He looks good in all of his fights. He looks pretty well-rounded. The problem is when you're fighting, for lack of a better word, scrubs, and you're looking good, it's hard to really quantify that in terms of how good you are. And Michael McDonald is a more top-of-the-food chain bantamweight. Soto is maybe the better ground fighter, but I think McDonald's better on the feet. McDonald's pretty good at keeping the fight on the feet if he wants to, and even if it goes to the ground, he's not easy tappings. So I got to take Michael McDonald. Also, there's the short notice factor. Like, Soto just took this fight up until like a week or two ago. This was supposed to be Johnny Eduardo versus Michael McDonald, and this is very short notice. First time in the UFC, I see him maybe even choking a little bit and getting finished by TKO. Taking TKO second round for Michael Mayday McDonald. The other Spike card, which is just a poor poor idea. Why Weidman and Lawler was not selected over this fight, I don't really know. I understand Ryan Bader's got the big name and that he actually does have a tough win over Lawler, but Ryan Bader versus Jason Brills. This is a fight between two guys who represent different evolutions in the wrestler game, basically. Brills is that level of wrestler who picked up grappling skills and picked up rudimentary boxing. Bader is the guy who takes that a step further, adds a lot of KO power, and enhances both the grappling and the striking aspect. And as a result, I mean, I don't know how you can't go for Ryan Bader in this one. Taking Bader by unanimous decision, but if he were to TKO or knock him out, it wouldn't be surprising. Bader packs dynamite in his hands. Very, very hard hitter. I would be surprised if he subbed him because Brills has been on the ground with just better grapplers and been able to handle himself. But I see Bader just being able to take him down if he needs to, being able to outstrike him if he needs to, and pick up the unanimous decision here. Bader has, of course, disappointed me before, so we'll see. Then on the main card, Stephan Bonnar, Kyle Kingsbury. Very exciting fight. Somewhat I'm picking this one more on hope than perhaps the greatest of reasoning, and that is I'm picking Kyle Kingsbury to win. This is because I'm hoping that this is a bit of a new star birth, like Kyle Kingsbury finally getting that win that allows him to break free and set up some better fights. Whereas if Bonnar wins, this just kind of means that Kingsbury, you know, isn't really up to the level, and we know Bonnar isn't really up to the level. And that's kind of why I'm hoping Kingsbury wins, even though I really do like Stephan Bonnar. On a skill side, though, I do believe that Kingsbury is the more athletic, more explosive of the two. I think his punches and kicks hold more power than Bonnar's. I think that his counter wrestling is good enough to the point where I don't think Bonnar takes him down easily. Although if it does go to the ground, I think people forget Stephan Bonnar is a very good grappler. Kingsbury has shown somewhat of a propensity to not be able to grapple very well. That being said, I'm taking Kingsbury by unanimous decision here. Basically be a sprawl and brawl. Bonner's a tough guy. Only, finished, I think, the one time or two times. I think it was both by cut under weird circumstances. 1-2 Machida and 1-2 Christos Zinsky. Yeah, I'm right. All of his other losses are decisions. And no offense to Kingsbury, you're not Lyoto Machida. And hopefully you don't cut him with an illegal headbutt like Christoph Sosinski did. So, continuing on, Martin Kampmann, Rick Story. Interesting fight. A bit of a striker versus the grappler here. But the difference is that I really believe that Kampmann is the better grappler. He's not the better wrestler necessarily. But he did a good job of stuffing Diego Sanchez's takedowns. Story, I think, is a better technical wrestler, but he doesn't quite have the same setup that Sanchez has. He doesn't set his takedowns up as well with strikes. He doesn't have quite the same relentless pace. He had a great deal of hard time with Alves in terms of getting the takedown, still got the win. But I see this as being Kampmann being able to, it'll go to the ground at some point, and Kampmann being able to outposition him, outwork him on the ground, easily outstrike him, and pick up a decision here. I'm going to say split because Martin Kampmann's not had good luck with judging at all. And if he loses this fight on judges' scorecards, it's not at all surprising because the UFC judging system is, very wrestler-friendly, and additionally, the judges don't understand crap all. Hence, the Matt Lucas, Aaron Rosa fight being a draw. That was a great example of the retardedness of judging. Brian Bowles, Uriah Faber, very tough fight to call. These guys are very similar. Both wrestling backgrounds, both have good stand-up, both have good ground games. Faber's maybe a little bigger. Bowles is maybe a little faster. I'm going to gamble, and I'm going to say Brian Bowles picks up a unanimous decision here by being able to outstrike Faber to an extent, being able to out-scramble Faber, because I think that's key. I think that's something Dominic Cruz did. I think that's something Bowles can do. But this is a very tough fight. This is a very, very hard fight to pick. Additionally, I'm kind of hoping that Bowles takes it because we just saw Faber-Cruz. Bowles-Cruz was a bit weird. And maybe Brian Bowles is in line to get that second shot with a win here. It's either basically him or I think Henning Barrow that gets the title shot. But going with Bulls, again, kind of like the Kingsbury Monner fight, it's a little bit of a hopefulness more than a particularly great feeling that this is the right pick. But that's what I'm going to go with. Kung Lee, Vanderlei Silva, reasonably easy fight here. This is supposed to be Belfort versus Kung Lee, and I was going to take Belfort in that, but now with the switch, I'm taking Kung Lee over Vanderlei. Vanderlei's chin, it's seen the end of its best days. It's not really at the level it needs to be anymore. He leaves himself very open to get hit. I see a second round TKO or KO here for Kung Lee. If Vanderlei knocks him out, I mean, it's entirely possible. Vanderlei still has power in his hands. He still has swarming ability. But I think Kung Lee can take that. And I think Kung Lee can work him to a finish. Shogun versus Dan Henderson. Hollywood, Dan, Dangerous. Dan Henderson, the man of more nicknames than one would care to think. Henderson has historically had a hard time with clinch fighters of the Muay Thai persuasion. People immediately go, well, he beat Vanderlei Silva. You know what? He also lost to Vanderlei Silva. He lost to Anderson Silva. He lost in the clinch somewhat to Rampage. He lost to the Nogs because his bottom game wasn't there. And he lost to Arona. His 205 record against top competition is not great. He does, of course, have wins over Fedor and Fei Zhao and Babalu, but we have seen in the past that perhaps he has an issue with guys who can, you know, fight with him in the clinch and be able to outmuscle him at times. And we saw that in the Rich Franklin fight even. This is why I got to go with Shogun. This is, of course, highly predicated on a good Shogun showing up. And that's unfortunately hard to do, but I have not heard of he's coming off of an injury and so on. He looks good when he stays healthy. Taking Shogun, be it third or fourth round stoppage. This is a 5-round fight, right? This is 5 round. I'm assuming this is a 5-round fight. So third or fourth round stoppage. It wouldn't surprise me if he was the first guy to TKO or KO Dan Henderson. Actually, I don't know. Has he been TKO'd? I know Dan Henderson's never been KO'd. Has he ever been TKO'd? No. All right, so he wouldn't surprise me if he was the first guy to stop him with strikes. That being said, I'm taking Shogun by sub. Because Henderson does periodically expose himself to submissions on the ground. So, Shogun to win. All right, so I do have about 2 minutes here to kind of wrap this up. And I'm going to talk about the Simulated Fight League. Below, I'm going to post the standings as they are now as of Week 7 of Season 2. Season 3, we're going to expand from 12 teams to 16 teams. If you would like a team, comment or message, whatever. The deal basically is it's kind of like fantasy sports meets a video game, almost. You don't get to see a video game or anything, but basically we have a piece of software. It's a simulator for MMA. You draft your team, kind of like the IFL. You match up heavyweight, light heavyweight, middleweight, welterweight, etc. down to bantamweight. So you have 7 fights, 3 points for a finish, 2 points for UD, 1 point for a win that's a split decision or majority decision, and then, of course, no points for a draw. And the highest point total wins that week versus the team. So below is the standings. I'm going to put the YouTube names of everyone involved, if I have a YouTube name for them. There's one that I know I don't. And 2 of the teams are probably somewhat spoken for. They've been pretty active. They've been talking to me a lot about it. But if you want one of the other 2 teams, please don't hesitate to basically make some noise and declare that you are interested. Anyways, that's all for this video. I might see you tomorrow night when I do the tough recap, or in 2 days when I do the tough recap. Anyways, that is all.